Now, because of that threat that was presented to the National Commissioner had to task the DNC, who was responsible for crime detection, including crime intelligence, to make sure that they have the necessary equipment to be able to neutralize that particular threat. So it was their own responsibility. My role only was very minimal, based on National Commissioner calling me to that. After the meeting they had to brief, to bring General Ngobo and Tsumane, and for him to brief them of what were the threat that was presented. Even when you look, because I remember when there was a footage of that meeting which was published in the media, and there was even the script. That script was my handwriting. It was talking about the briefing that we received from National Commission about intelligent threat. There was nothing about buying grappers, etc., etc.
And sorry, just to interject there, and you said that, I just heard you saying that crime intelligence was responsible also for securing the tools of trade, and they were using that crime intelligence fund.
Obviously, they were going
You
to...
said earlier on, because that fund is specifically allocated, the monies from that fund specifically for operations, for crime intelligence operations.
It was going to be those tools of trade that they intended to purchase before was part of, they had the capacity or the ability to be able to neutralize that type of a threat that was identified during the conference.
But I'm asking, was that slush fund, was that the fund meant to pay for tools of trade?
Yes, for
because the
intelligence.
slush fund, as far as we've been told by previous witnesses, that is for crime intelligence operations, like for your source, for information, that it is only for that. So how do you use this fund for tools of trade? How will you account? Because there's secrecy around that fund.
They use it even to buy tools of trade that when they utilize them for operating underground. Hence the grapper. The grapper is part of the tools that they use when they do their crime intelligence operation.
But is that allowed?
I think it is allowed, because here is the one that was purchased by General Jacobs. It was purchased on the Secret Service funds, the one that I just highlighted of 120 million, and there was never any query, and there was even some audits on it.
Because we'll never be able to track the monies. We'll never be able to track anything bought from that fund, because that is a Secret Service fund. So I don't understand why it's allowed. But anyway, that is for us as the committee to do more research and to probe that.
Maybe I may not have the details of the deep utilization, hence there was even this query for them using that money to buy PPEs while we were buying PPEs for them in the open account.
Sure. Okay. Political involvement. I want to hone in on that. Given that NASREC was a political party conference rather than a state event, were there any communications, requests, or instructions from political office bearers or government executives regarding the security arrangements? What genuine security concerns were present?
Normally, when there are even political parties, big conferences that are going to happen in a particular province, where there are those committees that are formed even at a cluster or station level in order to ensure that whatever conference that is going to take place is free from any incidents. So that event is regarded as a major event, and there is a policy and guidelines in terms of major event, because the presidents and ministers, members of the cabinet will be in attendance. So it becomes critical for the police to secure such an event.
So you say there's an over and beyond approach when it comes to that event specifically?
Not only that one and many others, I can even maybe believe that even with other parties, when they have to do them in any venue where they can make a determination, there is an assessment of the risk of that event that is conducted. And based on that assessment, the local precinct where the event is going to be hosted come up with a plan to ensure that they police that particular event.
So there's no additional pressure for additional resources, special favors coming in.
No, no.
There's a genuine threat.
It is a genuine thing. I became involved when I was there at the PSS, even with World Economic Forums. There are certain events that are categorized as major events.
We've heard from multiple witness testimonies that these events enjoyed larger than normal major event deployments, with the full top brass of SAPS having been at the January 8th celebrations, as well as larger than normal, I've said this, deployment at the ANC conferences. Now, you know, this grates me because only today we see SANDF arrive in our communities, but you have these annual political elite events enjoying such a grand security deployment. You've said the fact what justifies this. I've actually gone ahead of my questions. The fact that you have the president there, the fact that you have the ministers there, that justifies the additional deployment. And it is not like all other political conferences, General, I must just add in. I don't think any other political conference sees as huge a deployment as the January 8th, truth be told.
I haven't attended the January 8th and I don't know what happens there. Maybe this fora, as the parliamentarians, can look into how those major events where political parties are not treated equally and find a way to address it.
Okay, thank you. At any point during this process, did you or anyone in SAPS experience pressure, guidance, or expectations from political actors about how security or procurement decisions would be handled?
Not in the event.
They don't tell you who to use.
It has not.
You don't get those letters, use this one for procurement for this from any of the political office bearers?
No, during my involvement, I never experienced such. And I must say that when I was at PSS, I was solely responsible for ensuring that what are the things that must be done against the relevant directives. I ensured that.
Documentation and the IPID, right? The Pretoria High Court found that certain SAPS officials failed to hand over information to IPID regarding these matters. Okay. Can you explain why the relevant procurement documentation was not provided to IPID when it was requested?
In regard to this CREPA matter, it is because there were no documents compiled. As I said earlier on, the very first day of the 13th, when NASCOM attended the meeting and briefed us, and we went to brief General Tsumane to brief crime intelligence officials, it is on the very same day Mr. Sissoko called General Tsumane, and the National Commissioner instructed that the process must be stopped immediately. As I said, that when I left crime intelligence together with General Tsumane, no documents were produced. There was nothing. It was just a meeting. We left them in a meeting. If there were documents, it was the documents that they might have compiled them on their own crime intelligence together, maybe, or before or after, I don't know. But on that involvement where it was General Tsumane, myself, and Ngobo and the National Commission, there was no document whatsoever. And this was explained.
Shocking. Responsibility for the non-disclosure. Did you personally make the decision not to provide those documents, or were they instructions given by someone else within SAP's leadership?
I don't have the authority even as the Deputy National Commissioner to provide document to any outside institution except within SAPS. Only the National Commissioner can grant that authority.
Thank you. One more question. The raid on your office, in your affidavit, you state that General Fani Masemola and a team removed documents from your office shortly after your suspension, right? What types of documents were taken, and did they include records related to procurement or matters currently before this committee? Anything that was taken, that was said at this committee that can help us with our findings?
They took all the documents that I was utilizing at the time, files, anything. I cannot even remember or be specific whether such document that we have here were also taken, but I was able, as I was preparing for this meeting, to request for certain information within SAPS. Hence, I have some of the information that is not signed.
So there was nothing specific there that you can say can tie to some of the evidence that the witnesses has given us that can support?
No, I cannot remember. The only joke I can remember was that my PA said, they said anything as long as there is an ink on it, you must take it.
Okay. Thank you so much, General. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Honorable James, thank you so much. The next speaker is Charlie. Honorable Skosan.
I thought Honorable Sangon is going to be the first one, but it looks like she's not speaking today. So thank you, Chair.
You can stop and allow her to speak.
Okay.
Honorable Chairperson, I know that Honorable Skosana really loves the sound of my voice,
Yes.
but I will not be
I'm very
speaking
much
today.
aware.
I'm sorry to disappoint him.
I'm very much aware of that, and I second your statement.
Thank you, Chair.
And Honorable Skosana, if she was going to speak, she was going to take the time that you are going to use.
Oh, okay. Thank you,
Because
Chair.
it would have been you who said she must speak when the chair has recognized you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair. It looks like we are going home early today.
You are worried.
Good evening, General Vuma.
Good evening, Honorable Member.
I'm not going to waste time today. I know people want to go home, but I have to ask. You know, there was this issue of Lieutenant General Jacobs, who was the Divisional Commissioner of the Intelligence, and Minister Qele, purchasing an interception equipment to the value of 120 million. Where was the National Corps Commissioner here?
The National Commissioner did approve those requirements, I must say. And the entire process was followed by Lieutenant General Jacobs because he needed to apply to National Treasurer where National Commissioner endorsed his signature and supported it. The only challenge became when, after the authorization, remember you cannot request for that exemption certificate if you don't have authorization and approvals to purchase. Now, the process needed to halt there and they obtain those authorizations so that when they purchase, they are ready, when the stock arrives, they are ready to implement. Hence, I'm coupling both of them that the minister had a responsibility to facilitate those exemption certificates because he had to liaise with the other state department in that regard.
Now, as a result, those equipment are lying somewhere unused. It's like it's a waste now.
They were lying somewhere, but they started to use them, I think, in 2022. So they lied from 2020, 21, and almost 2 years, couple of months, unutilized.
Now, what investigation did you conduct against General Jacobs?
I conducted the investigation against General Jacobs in regard to the circumstances under which Lieutenant Colonel Kine was killed and his protection was withdrawn. And I also conducted an investigation in regards to them purchasing the PPE utilizing Secret Service account, which is normally referred to as the sludge fund.
So what were the findings against him?
The recommendations recommended that he must be taken for disciplinary hearings for his act or omission in those matters, which I did not even attach them because they were classified, but I produced those reports.
Why do you then allege that there was a ministerial interference in such investigation? What happened?
The minister wrote in black and white to the National Commissioner to say he must put those investigation or suspensions of Lieutenant General Jacobs in abeyance until I don't know what he wanted to do. The annexures are here attached in that record.
Now, you told us that yourself, as well as investigator, you became a victim. How so?
The minister called me to meetings and complained to me that, why did you recommend that General Jacobs must be taken to a disciplinary hearings? You should not have done that. In fact, according to him, General Mfazi and General Libya should have been the ones who were taken to those disciplinary hearings. And I had to explain to the minister that, no, minister, when I conduct an investigation, I can safely assure you, there's no one who can coerce me to change my recommendation because I obtain statement, I interview people, I analyze document. So based on that, this is why I came up with those recommendations.
Then what ultimately happened to that investigation?
Those investigations, General Jacobs took them to triple SBC for the matters to be allocated an independent commissioner because he relied on a document which was once submitted by Kine, where he regarded it also as part of the protected disclosure. Now, while those cases set in triple SBC, since that time up until last year, I think it was in September, October, I can't remember exactly, the annexure is attached where the National Commissioner withdrew those cases. He never was subjected to a hearing in regard to those matters.
Now let's go to the removal of General Nkosi. What was the role of this position called audit executive?
The audit executive is the role, I'm trying to think now. My mind is getting tired. It is the tool in the organization that is used by mostly all organizations to have an inward looking of processes, prescribed, and amongst others, detect irregularities within the organization before an external auditor comes into an organization. It is a tool to assist the National Commissioner to ensure assurance within his areas of responsibility.
Now, I think there was an issue about General Nkosi. Was he qualified for that position?
According to the report that was submitted to the subs, at the time he was appointed, he did not have the prerequisite qualifications to be appointed in that post. As a result, the Public Service Commission recommended even disciplinary measures to the panel that appointed her. And she was recommended to be demoted to a level of a brigadier.
So why was the minister not happy about that?
The minister was not happy because he was, General Nkosi was one of the close allies to the minister. As such, if there was an audit that was conducted at supply chain regarding the PPE, and when an audit is conducted, before a final report is submitted, the business unit that has been audited sits together with the auditors, because many a times some of these auditors are young people who are still at the internship program, who does not have experience, who does not understand some of the prescripts and policies. So there is that engagement to discuss the outcome of the audit, so that they are able to clear some of the matters and leave those that are genuine. So there was an audit which General Nkosi's office leaked to the media for the SAPS. And that audit highlighted 1.6 billion irregular expenditure in the SAPS for PPEs. Now, it was leaked before, it was still in a draft format. And as time progresses, the auditors had an opportunity to engage supply chain, and almost most of those presumed suspected irregularities were addressed. Now, based on that media, that was leaked, the PCOP for the police invited us to present to portfolio committee on that irregular expenditure.
Now, what step, because there should be some consequence management. Now, what step, if any, or mechanism which were taken against General Mngwenya for participating in this appointment of General Mkhwanazi? I mean, of General Nkosi.
I only became aware of that report of Public Service Commission when I was busy with the matching and placing in the SAPS. And I became aware because there was a reminder or a letter from PS Public Service Commission that wanted to know how their recommendations, up to how far have we been able to implement their recommendations. That is when I requested the report. Unfortunately, during that time, Lieutenant General Mngwenya was already dismissed from the service.
But who is General Mngwenya, in short? Because I think when we had Lieutenant General Sibia, her name came up as well here. If I'm right, I think she's got a baby or a child. If I'm correct.
Yeah, in as far as my information is concerned, they have a child together, the son, General Mngwenya and General Sibia.
So she was working in the province, or was in the head office? She was working with you.
She was a lieutenant general who worked at head office as a deputy national commissioner. She was responsible for human resource management.
Now, when it comes to the issue of PPE, was she the one who authorized this procurement of PPEs at that time when we had that problem? As you said, the treasurer had to be involved. You had to go to the Chinese and to make sure that there was stock and that. But was she the one who was authorized to do this PPEs procurement and General Reid, if I remember?
I cannot say that she was authorized to do that because General Reid was liaising constantly with National Treasurer, and we had to implement the directives as was published and submitted to all government departments by National Treasurer. Hence, most of the suppliers came from them, even though they grant us a blanket authority that based on the shortage, we can explore.
Okay. Now, earlier you mentioned the issue of General Minister Begicele or General Begicele, you know, but at that time he was a minister. Now, you said to us here that there were some names which were given to you and the other members. I think you mentioned one member, if I remember, the list of suppliers for these PPEs, and you were forcefully, in a way, inverted commas, you know, pushed into a corner to accept that list. Do you still have that list, or the names? Maybe you can mention the few of those names, if you have.
I don't have a list, but if it is required, General Reed can be able to give it to me, even though he has since retired, but I'm sure he can be able to.
I guess that the records are still there.
Are still available, yes. I
Now-
only have one here, which I said earlier on, is a skincare and whatever body range. Yeah.
Yes. Now, you told us that you were victimized for not appointing these companies which were given by General Ngwenya. You know, there was, and the minister as well was very upset, Minister Kele, you know, because things didn't go her way, because apparently you, as you told us, you know, that you wanted the processes to be followed to the T. Now, the issue of you being victimized, in your view, for you to sit home for 3.5 years, derived from you refusing to toe the line. Am I right?
Yes.
Now, what was the response from General Masemula and Libya when Minister Kele berated you in their presence for not appointing those companies? The list which they gave it to you, and yeah.
Yeah, it was a very bad and hectic meeting in the office of the minister. We were berated. We were, yeah, it was not a nice meeting, I must say.
Did you take any step to report this matter or escalate it to the National Commissioner? Because if I remember, the National Commissioner was not part of that meeting.
Yes, immediately when we left, in fact, while I was still there, I sent a message on WhatsApp to the National Commissioner, please come and attend this meeting. Myself and General Reed were going back to the office. And fortunately, when I was driving in the basement at Vages, I met National Commissioner parking there, and I gave him a full detail of what's transpired.
Then what was the circumstances that led to the dismissal of General Ngwenya?
General Ngwenya was disciplined. She was found to have been involved in the contract of the blue lights with all the people that are appearing in court in that particular matter.
Now, on that, there was an allegation that Brigadier, I think, Ramjalan, that you wrote a letter and exonerating him from the rest. Is that true?
In the blue lights matter?
Yes.
It is not true because he's still appearing with them.
Yes. Hence, I want you to clarify, because there's a lot of things going on. You know, when we sit in the police portfolio committee, we are receiving so many complaints, and yeah. Now, Minister Kele was not happy about you, in particular, with the outcome which led to the dismissal of General Ngwenya. Am I right?
Yes.
This incident led you to be victimized by Minister Kele, in your view?
In my view, yes.
Now, let's come to the issue of General Jacobs. What investigation did you conduct against General Jacobs?
Is the two investigations, the one for involving Lieutenant Colonel Kine's murder and the one of purchasing PPE?
Then what was the finding, if I may ask?
The findings recommended that General Jacobs had a case to answer. He needed to be subjected to a disciplinary process.
Now, before I close, Chair, I just want to find out from General Zuma that, Vuma, in your view, General Mkhwanazi press conference on the 6th of July, was it a milestone? Was it something which will help this country? And in particular, the security cluster, both the Department of Justice, though we had our own shortfalls in terms of bringing, magistrates, judges, we had prosecutors here. But in your opinion, in closing, do you think General Mkhwanazi, being a provincial co-commissioner for that matter, has helped this country to heal and to reset as well, in particular the South African Police Service, that we must maintain the integrity, of men and women in blue, and to make sure that whatever happened must never repeat itself in this country? What's your opinion on that? Was he right of doing what he has done, or you have your own mixed feelings?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I think, as I said earlier on, that my analysis of what General Mkhwanazi did, I believe that to a certain extent, it has assisted the country. It was a moment of saying to the country, hold on, what is happening here? Especially in the criminal justice system, because we're seeing a lot of things. Some are very scary things. People are getting killed for testifying. We're seeing a lot of rot which we were not aware of. We were seeing at certain minor things that we were exposed to, but the more we sit and look, we realize that there are bigger problems in the country than what we expect. However, I want to say that each and every person is unique. I also felt, like you said, in terms of the mixed feelings, that maybe the approach of the media briefing had an impact on the political sphere of the country as well as the government to look into the outside world as if they are not in touch with the criminal justice system. To me, it posed a particular risk, the approach. However, I'm not saying it is wrong.
No, I understand you, because really for some of us, some people felt that it was completely wrong, and they were even mentioning the uniform, which for me is childish and immature, for saying because he was wearing special task force uniform. There's nothing wrong with the uniform, the posture, but for me, from where I'm sitting, I must say that because of this country is facing serious issues, in terms of drugs. You go to our rural area, let me make a disclaimer, Chair. General Vuma, well, I came a little bit late in the police force, in 1994. Now, where you used to be at Sesterzoek, Sesterzoek.
I started there.
Yes, I was kept in that police station, Chair. I think it's a 30 square meter police station. Shacks. It's not something, I'm talking about shacks. You're sitting in a police cell in 1986. I was kept in that. I will never forget that. And well, I've been transferred to other police stations. Today, when you go to Kamhlanga, when you go to Kwaggafontein, go to Siyabuswa, in other areas, Jan Fes, you know, Mtetema, you'll cry. In every street corner, there's children. Drugs has completely destroyed our kids. And we need men and women in the uniform to help, and the society as well. We are not blaming I don't blame the police, because as parents as well, we must take responsibility. We can't, delegate our responsibility to the police. We must work together. There must be social cohesion. Now, I'm saying, please, as well, you've been there for 39 years. Please encourage those young men and women who wants to be advised by you to make sure that the integrity of the South African Police Service is back. I thank you. Thank you, Chair.
And thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you, Member.
General Vuma, you have been in the SAPS for 38 years plus. Am I correct?
It's correct, Honorable Chair.
In the many years that you have worked in the SAPS, because I think now you are not afraid of career limiting statements, you are a pensioner. In the many years that you have been there, can you say to us that I have not observed corrupt behavior within the system, or I have observed corrupt behavior? That is what we are investigating. We want to check if there are corrupt practices. And some of them would be those that you would have alleged here today, which affected you personally. What is your response?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. In my career in the police, I have observed a lot of corruption. And I was exposed to corruption when I was a warrant officer. If the chairperson allows me, I can just relate a very short, it's a long story, but I can summarize it.
Yeah.
While I was a warrant officer, also working under the very same environment of procurement, I had a few members that were reporting to me who were sergeants and constables. Now I had to take a study leave. It was October, November. When I came back from study leave, I found, and I think due to my spiritual intuition, I went straight to the order form books that were utilized for corruption, unaware. And I started to conduct my audit and gave each and everyone their books. And I gave, for example, Honorable Sangwen.
Sangon.
Sangwen.
Sangon.
Sangon. Go.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
I think her own corruption
Yeah.
books. Unaware. He ran Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all over. He was not coming to the office, this guy. The following, and I will ask, where is so-and-so? They say, no, we saw him, but he's not here. The following Monday, when we arrive in the office in the morning, we receive a call that he shot himself at Kwaggafontein under the tree. He tried to hang himself with a tie. It couldn't work. Then he shot himself. I was still not aware what exactly happened. Up until I was called by the commissioner, it was still Gwandebele Police. When the commissioner called me, he said, man, go and check properly in your books. There's a lot of rumors that this person was carrying 40,000 checks, 30-something thousand checks. And those times, that was a lot of money. I'm sure it was like in a value of $1 million. Then I said, no, man, I've checked all the books. He said, no, check. So we were not printing our own checks. We had to go to the Department of Finance to print the checks. I went there to check. What I found was amazing. More than $1 million in 1 month was spent by this guy. Now, interestingly is when he died, he left a note. And the note was saying, in every successful of a man, there is a woman behind. Now, we assumed he was talking to his wife because he also had girlfriends. Remember, I was having Machangur. But as time progresses, we discovered that I am the woman behind his downfall because I discovered this. He thought I've already discovered the real thing, and it was not. Now my life became a misery thereafter. It's a topic for another day. Thank you, Chairperson.
So tell me, and I'm asking you not the details, but based on the story that you have just shared with us. So practices like that could also have happened elsewhere in the police service, not only confined to the environment where you could have been a senior with people reporting to you. They could have also replicated elsewhere in the system. But to your knowledge or to the whispers or the gossips that would have come around, were such activities known to the authorities? Maybe let's say I'm a station commander at Mankweng police station. In my position as a station commander, does it occur that I come to know that in a police station where I'm the supervisor or I'm the head, there is so and so who may be doing, even if evidence may not be conclusive, do we sometimes in the corridors hear such whispers? For instance, in the position that where you were as a senior ranking officer, does it occur that these whispers reach your ears?
It might be a challenge, but as a seasoned police official, Honorable Chair, it's easy to obtain such an information, and it's easy to dig people without understanding.
I don't mean formal.
Yeah.
You know, when you are a coach of a football team, you can go to a party or a funeral elsewhere. And then one of the supporters of your team asks you, but coach, why don't you ever give Ramano a chance to play? Because the few moments that we saw him is a good player. So I'm just saying, maybe from concerned or interested members of the public, when you walk on the streets, don't you sometimes come across people who say, but hey, guys, hey, we don't want to talk too much, but hey, you are people.
They do.
They do.
They do a lot.
And then how has it been difficult for the leadership of the police to act on such matters if those whispers come across?
They have been attended to, like I said earlier on, Honorable Chairperson, SAPS is a very big organization. We also have a component in the Division Inspectorate, which is responsible for complaints against the police. Some of the complaints comes from presidential hotline. I don't know if it's still there. It was there during the time of our previous president. Now, those matters get investigated and we equally utilize them, those reports, to conduct awareness campaigns in different provinces and districts. However, human beings are human beings. The road has become bigger than it used to become. I don't know. Maybe part of the reasons might be what I said earlier on when I was responding to the Honorable Day, that we have lost the moral fiber of our country, of the people of South Africa. We need to really go back to the basics.
Yeah. And then you said the lieutenant generals are few. Most of them are divisional heads, correct?
I said there are few, most of them are?
Divisional heads.
Yes, most of them are divisional heads.
I think you mentioned about 10.
Yes.
If you ask these honorable members in the statements that they have, for sure by now there would be a sentence or a paragraph where all of those lieutenant generals have been mentioned before us here. I can, you see, standing here, I can tell you, General so-and-so, there is this allegation about her, General so-and-so, there is this allegation about him, General so-and-so. And the aggregate of it is that this committee has had allegations about all those positions that you talk about here. Of course, we may not say those allegations are true or they have to be believed. But as a retired senior ranking officer, you are also coming here. There have been allegations. Members have been asking you about them. I mean, where does it put the image of an institution like the SAPS, particularly as a very important institution that must win the confidence of the people?
It puts it into a very big disrepute, Honorable Chair, that it cannot be trusted, the leadership is rotten, the list is endless.
If you were to advise us now to say, honorable members of this parliament of the Republic, you may be left with a week now to conclude your business. This is the word that I leave with you. What are the fundamental interventions that you think this parliament must make to reset the criminal justice system in the country? I mean, you have told us about everything where you say officials from IPIT will even come to the SAPS and want to advise you on where to procure services. Alleged corrupt practices with regard to abuse of organizational authority. Where do we go from here? You have been there at senior management level. What is it that you think? One or two or three things. What is it that has worked for us as a country, and what is it that is not working? We don't want a situation where we wake up one day and there is load shedding in the country. You know, if there is load shedding in the police, the country can't go dark with the police service. Because once the lights come back, there may be 2 or 3 people left in the country. We may no longer be a country again. So lights can never go dark in the police service.
Shall I respond on
Yes.
that? Yeah, it's a difficult one. However, I think and I believe that there is a need for a reflection in the organization with deep analysis of trying to look as to what went wrong, when did it start, how did it start, and really go deep. Do a deep introspection in all levels. What might be the other influential, they normally call them the external factors that might have affected the organization? What are the other roles of the leadership? Roles of the leadership is also equally important as parliamentarians. And what is their contribution in these challenges that we are reflecting on? From that introspection, then it will be necessary then to come up with reforms based on what shall have been found, on the findings of those analyses. Come up with proposals and reforms, and if at all possible, these matters should also involve certain community leaders that are of credibility to assist in this particular process. It should not only be people from criminal justice system or parliament only. We also need the leaders in our communities that can also contribute towards this. There is definitely need of reforms.
Kawazel,
Thank you, Chairperson.
you said you have one question. But being the benevolent chair, even if you have 5 or 10, still okay.
Chair, I wouldn't want to detain anybody any longer than they ought to be here. Lieutenant General, my question just piggybacks on what Honorable Vessels asked you. You responded and said that you were responsible for supply chain. It fell under your division. If you would just please tell the committee, how do you deal with the sponsorships, particularly for recognition awards? Just to give you context, it was testified yesterday that service providers are approached by the SAPs to provide sponsorship for recognition awards.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. In the police, there is a policy which is referred to as the Standing Order 58 that regulates the request and acceptance of gifts. Before any business unit approach any company for a sponsorship, there is an application that must be made by the particular business unit and list all the service providers that you intend approaching for a sponsorship, and it is referred to supply chain management. And supply chain management is a process. They must check whether those service providers are not rendering the service with the police. They don't have contract, because you cannot have a sponsorship with someone that is rendering services to you, because that will be a beginning of coziness and which will lead up to corruption. We cannot. You then, supply chain out of 10, for example, will be able to say 2 is fine, maybe 8, we have contract with them. So those are a no-no. They cannot submit an application to them for a sponsorship. And once those they will do, business units will apply to those companies. And many a times, the standing order avoids monetary value of a sponsorship. It requires donation in kind. And that particular donation should not be conditional. I cannot donate to you and tell you where to use my donation. It should be just a donation to the organization. Many times, SAPs used to only work, not that they cannot work with others, companies who are not doing business with the police, but it used to be mostly insurance companies because we know that insurance companies are not tendering in the police. So after you have received the sponsor, you still must make an application to supply chain management for the acceptance of the sponsorship based on this particular standing order. And once that is approved, is then that you can utilize your donation or sponsor.
Thank you, Lieutenant General. As you have responded, you said the first step would be for the particular division or the particular business rather, would have to write a letter to supply chain stating that they require some type of sponsorship. Now, with respect to the particular issue that I'm addressing, a question that emanates from yesterday's testimony, that letter was provided and it formed part of the annexures. So the particular business did approach supply chain and request that a particular entity sponsor. The letter is labeled Request for Approach for Sponsorship. It's particularly for Divisional Excellence Awards. So it's not a general donation. The donation is for something very specific. And the next attachment that we have is from supply chain. Dr. M.I. Fani responded to the particular business unit, which is forensics and falls under Lieutenant General Sentimule. That is the issue that I'm speaking about. And in his response, he says that the Divisional Commissioner of, in his response, he states that, if you can just, sorry, give me 1 second. The business unit was very specific from whom it sought sponsorship. At paragraph 3, it says, due to financial constraints within the division, this office requests to approach the Medicare 24 for sponsorship for the said event. So it is from a specific supplier. And then the response from supply chain, I just need you to make comments about this. The response from supply chain says that the Divisional Commissioner Detective and Forensic Services letter with reference, which is the letter that we've just read in, the provided sponsors and or donors list were considered and the companies are currently not under evaluation and may be approached for possible sponsorship. Under no circumstances may cash be accepted, as you've testified. It must be handled accordingly to the National Treasury Regulation 21, as well as the prescripts of policies in regards to the sponsorship and donations. What is not apparent from this letter is whether it is responding to specifically Medicare 24, whom we know was at the time a active supplier at SAPS. What is your comment, seeing as this fell under your division? How would you handle this? It just says that no active companies that are not under evaluation. What does that mean?
That means that they only checked in terms of their current processes, whether the company is under evaluation process, unless they amended the standing order. The standing order, when checks in all aspects, whether the matter is under evaluation or under adjudication or is having a business, a contract with the police. The only sponsorship that can be accepted in a company that is already having business with the police should be a voluntary sponsorship that comes from the company itself and saying, I want to donate. And there will be a lot of scrutiny in terms of the reason that must be provided, why that company wants to sponsor, etc., etc. But SAPS cannot approach a company that it is dealing, doing business with. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Advocate General. Are you a strong personality?
I am very fragile, Honorable Chair.
So, what kept you going after you were told that you were suspended, and how have you survived during the years of suspension?
I think it is my spiritual reliance that has kept me this far, and also the support from my children and my family. And also the fact that I am a very positive person. Even if I am experiencing challenges, etc., I always believe, and I always find a way of believing that these two shall come to pass. Maybe based on those values that even Jesus Christ went through trials and tribulations. If I am a follower of Jesus Christ, certainly I will be met by trials and tribulations, and they will not stay with me forever. And with God by my side, nothing can destroy me.
And you still say again that there is nothing wrong you did.
I believe in that.
And what is your message to many young South Africans or middle-aged South Africans? Because I see in your case, you were about 2 or 3 years to leave the system. What do you say to those young or middle-aged South Africans who have been suspended from work because they refuse to do wrong things? What message can you give them to keep them believing that things will happen for them?
I will be saying to them, perseverance is the mother of success. They must persevere and they must continue to do and believe, do positive things, and to find ways, of course, of addressing the challenges where possible. And they must even knock in those doors that are closed, where they believe, they might be believing the doors are locked.
Young South African who comes to you and say, Mom, I refused to sign these documents. And I was suspended. I was even told before that if you don't do this, we are going to suspend you. And then that eventuality came. And then the person comes to you and say, I saw you before Honorable Sols, before Honorable Sangoni, telling us the story of your life. How do you encourage such a victim to believe that one day the dark cloud shall lift?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I believe in some of the systems and bodies that this beautiful government of ours in South Africa has established. There are other institutions. Hence, I was saying that they must not believe that every door that is closed is locked. I will be able to advise and I will be able to assist and I will be able to refer them. We have other institutions who are still doing good job, who are taking these cases, who will be able to assist them. I will take them through the particular process. And I want to say that I am equally available because now I am a senior citizen. I can advise better. I'm no more afraid of anything. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much. We have come to the end of our proceedings with you. And let me take this opportunity to formally thank you, but also admire you for your fortitude. We are releasing you from the oath. And thank you for staying until we release you. We have come to the end of the proceedings. Thank you so much, honorable members who are starting. We are resuming at 10 o'clock tomorrow on Anesthesia venue. Tomorrow we are at the NCOP building S12. We are starting at 10 o'clock. We are going to break at 1 o'clock, and Parliament is sitting in the afternoon. When the business of Parliament ends at 5 o'clock, where do we go? S12 or we come here? At 5 o'clock we come here. And we work until the wee hours.
It looks like we're children of a lesser God.
We are a nation at work for a better life for all. Yeah, and Friday is bumper to bumper action. From 10 o'clock until Saturday morning. We have 4 witnesses on Friday coming before us. Yeah, no, if you leave me here, I also call the meeting off. Honorable members, may you please stand up and leave the chambers.
I spent the last 3 years standing underground bunker.
Oh, so it's real. Do whatever it takes to protect what I've built. It's never just about the bunker.
Correctly summarizing your version, if I say, if I am to follow the sequence of events that you have outlined in your statement, which details how Minister Cele interfered with the work of the National Commissioner. Am I correct if I say his interference was extreme and was more deeper than what appeared in our eyes? And there's a lot that he did not tell us when he appeared before this ad hoc committee.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. It is true, and for the fact that I was the responsible for administration in the police, you know, in a day, These are just few examples that I've attached. In a day, we will receive 2 or 3 directives that says, I want response by 4 o'clock, or I want response by a certain time frame. Now, National Commissioner was bombarded with this having, and now we must keep on researching. I must involve legal services to assist me in other instances. It was actually deeper than what we understand.
Okay. So, Mr. Hlungwani, is it Mr. Hlungwani or Mr. Hlongwana?
I think it's Hlungwani.
Hlungwani. Yeah, because the way I spelled his name here is HLUNGWAANI. So that is Hlungwani. I don't know if that is the correct pronunciation. When he was here, he narrated the Grepa story and he associated it with the ANC conference in 2017. He says he was put under pressure to authorize and he refused. He refused, and one of the reasons why he refused is because there was a Grepa which was far lesser than the projected amount for the Grepa in question. Because he said the Grepa for which he was persuaded was around 46 million. Whereas there was a Grepa, I can't remember the specific amount, which was cheaper than that. The result of which he did not authorize that Grepa, and the Grepa was finally not purchased. But even after the Grepa was not purchased, you persuaded him, you General Vuma, to pay for the services that were not rendered. Meaning, even when the Grepa was not finally procured, but you persuaded him to pay the service provider you intended to purchase the Grepa from. So what is your reaction to that?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Very interesting. I'm sure the Grepa that he was conversing for whatever that amount was the one that he was told by his handler to persuade. But as I said, my involvement was only in one day. On the instruction of the National Commission, to go and assist these people. If there will be a need, give them guidance, because I don't want people to go beyond the relevant prescript. And that was I ended up with the briefing by the General Tsumane when he said, the National Commission said we must stop this. And the National Commission instructed Tsumane to ask it in writing from Sisoko, which a letter came from Sisoko in writing. Now, there is a Deputy National Commissioner responsible for crime detections where crime intelligence resort under. There is an acting divisional commissioner. There is even a Major General under Brigadier Hlongwane. How can I pass all those people and go and give instructions in an environment that is not mine? It is not true.
So your final position or the conclusive response you are giving is that is a pure lie. You never persuaded him, even after a decision not to continue with procurement was taken, to pay the Grepa. Because the question that I asked to him was, did General Vuma explain to you the reasons for paying for services which were not rendered? And the response thereto was, you said to him the service provider was already approached and there was a need to pay, I think, if my memory serves me well, an amount, I can't remember if it was 7 million or what, but you persuaded him to pay for that amount. And the question was, for which service? Because the service provider in question was finally not appointed. So it's a pure lie. It's a pure lie. It means if what you are saying is anything to go by, Mr. Hlungwane misled this committee. Is that your evidence?
That is my evidence, Honorable Chair, because if he says he paid, he should have produced document. When you pay, there are transactions, there's invoice, there's all these documents that are compiled and they are on the system. I did not do that.
And he also told this committee that he was advised by General Sithole that Minister Mbalula instructed him to consider the grabber in question. Can you comment on that?
Remember when I say that Bamuza, who was a brigadier female, together with Ksungwane, they were being handled by McBride. I don't know such any information, and I was never involved in their intelligence briefings. I was only involved for those few hours. I don't know about that.
Were you called in a meeting during the ANC conference which was discussing about this grabber?
I wasn't.
You were never part of that meeting?
No.
Okay. Let's go to the PPEs, General. I want to understand you correctly here. You are saying initially there was a transversal contract which consisted of companies which were compiled by the National Treasury. But because of scarcity of stock and high demand of PPEs, the National Treasury extended authority to appointment or for procurement in all departments to allow them or to enable them to appoint any company which can deliver services. Am I correct?
You are correct.
I want us to take it from the beginning and move to a particular point which I want clarity on.
You are correct. They issued the National Treasury Instruction 8 of 2019-20 to all government departments that they can approach any company as long as the company is registered on that department's database.
Okay. Following that notice by the National Treasury, and then you now as a department had to dissect potential service providers, and Mkwenya came with his list of companies for which he claimed to have been instructed by Minister Kele. Is that correct?
That is correct. And he came with those companies when myself and he were attending a board of directors of Parliament meeting.
So how many companies did Mkwenya present?
She was sneaking papers to me, and I'm sharing the meeting, and I said, please, take these companies to General Reed. I'm not dealing with the procurement. So he took. I have one example here, if I'm allowed, of the WhatsApp that I got from General Reed, which proves exactly what I'm saying, where she sent the company to General Reed and said, here's the business card of this man of this company, and this is the company I was trying to give to General Fu. I have that. And that company, interestingly, is, the name of the company is the Over and Above. It deals with skin and body care.
Okay. Yeah. And then somewhere in your statement, you are saying ultimately you did not appoint those companies because they had no enough or adequate stock.
Due to the fact that we were approaching, generally it was approaching any companies, and out of desperation, he did send people to go and do a due diligence in terms of they wanted to see the stock.
Okay.
But there was no stock.
So you appointed other service providers?
Other service providers.
How many service providers did you appoint?
There were many.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, SIU investigates you following the proclamation that was issued by the president in relation to the procurement of PPEs. Now, you are saying, I think you are responding to the evidence leader, Advocate Mkize. You said to her, the issue here that is in question is the pricing of the PPEs. And you are saying you had no control over that because you appointed companies because there was a scarcity of stock. Two, there was high demands. There were high demands. Now, the question that I want to, or the aspect that I want you to clarify me on, General, is you exclude companies presented by Mgwenya on the basis that they don't have adequate stock. You appoint your own companies that you appointed. Within the, and I assume that if you use a point of inadequacy of stock, then it means that the companies that you appointed are not going to have that shortfall. It means there will be adequate stock. Now, you are saying here, the reason why you overlooked or you had no control over the pricing of the PPEs in these companies is because, one, you were operating under pressure. Two, there was a scarcity of stock and there were high demands. Now, why is that a situation whereas you were using a criteria of adequacy and inadequacy of stock during the appointment process? Why do you still face the same challenge of a company that you appointed of the inadequacy of stock? Whereas you excluded companies on the basis that they do not have stock. Now, the ones that you have appointed yourselves are having the same problem that the companies you excluded had. So I just need clarity on that aspect.
Thank you very much, Chair. The first companies that were approached who did not have stock had already committed the money, which what I explained. In the procurement process, when you issue an order for 100 Rand, for example, that 100 Rand will be fixed. You will not be able to use that 100 Rand up until that 100 Rand an invoice has been received or ultimately the order is cancelled. That money is released for real use. That's what I explained earlier on. And I said, these companies, if they had stock, General Reed was going to purchase from them, but they did not have stock. Up until General Reed received from National Treasury this company, which is Red Roses, to say they will be in a position to deliver. And I'm talking sanitized. This message I'm talking about talks about sanitizer. These companies manufacturing sanitizer, maybe they can deliver. Now, when General Reed issued an order to this company, there was a price list which was named Annexure A, which coupled the Treasury instruction that was issued to all government departments. And I did explain that in that price list of National Treasury, there was no 25 litre. But the price list made, the company was able to deliver the 25 litres. So there was this issue regarding how do they determine the pricing of a 25 litre, which is not on the price list of National Treasury. Then there was a methodology from National Treasury, which was provided in order to make a determination of the fact that the price that was charged by this company, is it reasonable and comply with the National Treasury price list? Now, and I even emphasize the fact that due to scarcity and all these challenges, prices were escalating, were going high. We applied for a deviation authority to buy even if the prices were above the prescribed price, because we wanted to save lives of the members of the police. And immediately after that, I instructed General Reed that go through your list and check which companies did not comply with the price list that was provided by National Treasurer, and let us report those companies to the Competition Commission, which we did. There was a records to be undertaken after the situation subsided.
Okay, no, let's move to another question, General, because I have many questions. I wanted to take this further because still I'm not satisfied, but I still have a couple of questions. So when you conduct your investigations, how do you conduct them? The investigations that you conducted, do you rely on complaints? Are there any complainants who submit complaints? And upon receiving those complaints, do you unilaterally conduct investigations, or you formulate a team that conducts an investigation collectively with you?
The investigations that I've highlighted that I conduct is as a result of the mandate in line with my responsibilities. And I said we firstly conduct the audits, and from the audit, when there are signs of irregularities, we go further and deeper. And I appoint a team which is already there from forensic audit investigation, who conduct those investigations on behalf of the office. And constantly, I sit with those people and they give me feedback, and I'm providing guidance as to where they must look, because most of these challenges are experienced in the environment of procurement. And safe to say that we even had a strategy that we designed for contract management strategies due to the fact that we realized that there are serious problems. There was a contract management strategy that was designed, which we were implementing, and we were meeting on a quarterly basis, and I chaired that particular contract management strategy. Among others, challenges that we experienced was the fact that when a contract has been concluded, the operatives or end users, they will stay with the contract without checking when is the contract expiring. So in a contract management strategy, we will get presentations of all contracts and which ones are expiring when, etc. So from 1 year, we'll continuously write reminders and remind the business units, depending on the complexity of such a contract. If a contract is too complex, we'll remind them well in advance so that they start initiating the process of compiling their specifications and initiate the process of renewing the contract, or whether the contract needs to be re-advertised or not. You will find, I used to find that there are stacks and stacks of contracts that are on a month-to-month basis.
Yeah, no. My apologies, General. Okay. I think I've gotten what I was looking for.
All right.
So somewhere in your statement, you are saying amongst the allegations you were investigating is an allegation against Mr. Kele, an allegation that he used money for his legal services. I think that money is 5-point-something million or 6-point-something. I saw it in your statement. Yes. So how far did you go with that investigation?
There was that particular matter where General Kele, when he was required by the Zondo Commission to come and compile a statement, he was assisted by a legal team, attorney firm. My pardon. Now, those legal fees, they already paid something like 5.5 million. And there was an additional invoice, which was 1.5, 1.6, somewhere there, which also required to be paid. Even the state attorney itself queried that particular invoice to say, "Hey, this is too much. What is this invoice for?" So it required to be investigated, which is a process that I initiated. Unfortunately, I couldn't complete it because I was suspended.
Okay. So you don't know progress in that investigation?
I don't know.
You don't know if it was thrown out of the window or investigation is in progress.
Yes.
Okay, on paragraph 95, you are saying during your meeting in the Eastern Cape, you approached General Njinga. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Correct.
General Njinga, who confessed to you that there are evil plots, and she mentioned many generals here who were plotting against you, and she said to you she is going to call General Masemula to tell him that she is withdrawing an investigation against you. And she also undertook to write a letter on the following Monday. I'm just quoting verbatim because I did not write it down, but I still remember what it is entailed. So she promised to write a letter on Monday, and I think you ended by only telling us about a call which she made to General Masemula. You did not tell us whether he did what she undertook to do, to make a call on the following Monday to write a letter advising Mr. Masemula, General Masemula, that she is withdrawing the investigation. So what ultimately happened? Did she write that letter?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. She did write a letter, as I said, that on that Monday, which was the 13th, when I had a deep meeting with the National Commissioner. We even deliberated on this matter. It's just that I didn't have time to give more details. We deliberated on it, and Masemula acceded that yes, he has received all the files and everything that was given to General Njinga.
You did not see the content of the letter?
I wasn't interested. All I was interested was they must stop doing the wrong things.
So after now, she gives you facts, or after she gave you this information, because she even mentioned the names to you of generals, didn't you see a need of either lodging a formal complaint internally or opening a case?
I didn't think of doing that because this is the information where my boss, the National Commission, is colluding with the group of people. And even on the day when this lady was supposed to come, I even said to Masemula on that meeting of Monday, because you are able to talk to this lady and I'm struggling, call her to your office and I will come so that she signed her final document. And when I went there, I found General Masemula with these people and this lady. Then I just make sure that she signs the document and my process is concluded, and I left them there. It's very difficult that I will complain. Whom was I going to complain to? I'm sure externally. Hence, these are the matters that's compared
because
to me.
The plot was widespread.
Was right at home.
Was widespread internally. So you had no shoulder to cry on. Okay. So you are saying General Masemula gave you an offer to which you did not agree, but ultimately you reached an outside court settlement agreement, which was later reduced to a court order. Now, what is the difference between the offer that was initially given to you by General Masemula and the settlement agreement that you ultimately agreed upon? What was the difference between the two, and what convinced you? Because you said, you wanted to tell your side of the story. You wanted society to know the truth. So what ultimately convinced you to enter into a settlement agreement, whereas you initially refused to do so?
Thank you very much. It's two different offers. The first offer that Masemula enticed me on was an early retirement package, which was paying me my normal
normal pay up until beyond the retirement period, meaning I should have agreed with Masemula that September was the last month. It was in October, but they wanted me to end in September, and they will pay me whatever. Thereafter, I will get my retirement, and that was the offer I rejected. The offer that they brought in court was an offer that was negotiating nigga. I had those 3 cases of unlawful suspensions that only him was supposed to testify, and the arbitrator issues a verdict, which he did not want to attend. Then there were those rulings that have highlighted that were ruled in my favor, where I was supposed to go to work. The other one said the case is finished, I said, which he alleged to be reviewing.
Okay.
So those were the things that we agreed upon. But there was still a case of the PPE, which I said, this case must not go. I want to go through the hearing on this matter.
No, I get you, General. I'm rushing because my time is about to end. So then the public protector, you are saying there is a complaint which was lodged with the public protector. Who was the complainant?
According to the letter, they said the complainant was Mbuyiseni from EFF. No?
Or he complained to the
public protector.
To the public protector.
Yes.
So briefly, if you are to compare your relationship with General Sithole vis-a-vis your relationship with General Masemula, how would you differentiate the impact on your performance based on the relationship that you had with them respectively? Did it affect your performance at work? And if it did, how?
I worked with General Masemula, I think, for 3 months. Yeah. April, May, June. And in 3 months, a lot happened. I worked with General Sithole for a longer period. For example, when I was transferred by General Patlan from Inspectorate to Protection and Security Services, I found General Sithole there as a divisional commissioner, which I worked with him up until when he was a national commissioner. I may say that General Masemula made it difficult for me to execute my roles and responsibilities, but General Sithole gave me an opportunity to exercise my roles and responsibility with ease. Okay.
So far, I've only asked you 20% of the questions that I prepared for you. But the last one, because the chair here, I know you'll cut me. Then the last one is, you are saying General Cele sent SAPO members to fetch you, and they took you to his residence. Who are those members, and how did they fetch you? Did they just come uninvited to your house and grabbed you, or they called you, or you met somewhere and they advised you to go to General Cele's house? How did it happen?
They called me and they asked me, where are you? I told them I'm at home. They said, no, we are coming to fetch you. General Cele wants us to fetch you at home. Send us the location. I sent them the location. It was the president and the general secretary.
Thank you very much. I don't want to be cut by the chair. Thank you, Chair.
Hey, folks. I love that one of you, Rebecca Spence, I think your name is, has referred to this as the Hellscape Tour Bus, which I think really kind of sums up where we are this week, doesn't it? I absolutely love that. So welcome here from Lincoln, Nebraska. I saw 93 billion, and I don't know to what that is referring. I'm sure I should. So sorry about that. Biddeford, Maine, Stewart, Florida, Lafayette, Colorado, New Canton, Virginia, Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. All my friends at Valley Forge. Northern Ontario. You guys, Holland, Michigan. I had the nicest day in Holland, Michigan with my daughter a couple of years ago now. I still have a rock from it, actually. Anyway, I'm here, and I'm going to answer some specific questions, and then I'm going to try and give you some big picture stuff. So I hope I get to your questions, all of them, but they're a little bit all over the map, which makes sense in a lot of ways because we are in a period in which, I've said this to you a lot before, but it's very difficult to tell what the administration is doing. In part because they're trying so hard to make sure we don't know what they're doing. And as a result, you're unsettled all the time trying to figure out where the ground really is under your feet. And boy, is that happening in spades right now with this war in Iran. So let me actually start first with a question that somebody asked. It's really easy to explain. Somebody asked, what does this mean that there's people talking about how even if Trump doesn't sign a bill, it'll become a law? And that's an easy question. That's an easy one to answer. So if you look at the Constitution, I actually pulled it for you. I actually love history questions. If you look at the Constitution, the Congress, the two chambers of Congress, the House of Representatives and the Senate, are the only lawmaking body in the country. They're the ones who make the laws. That's why it's such a big deal when Trump refuses to fund something that Congress has both put into a law and then raised money for, because he's not supposed to do that. It's in Congress, and the House of Representatives is the only chamber that can originate a revenue measure. That's the framers were so concerned about taxes that they didn't want the Senate to be able to start those. The Senate has to vote on them, but revenue measures must start in the House. And someday, if we really have time, I can tell you about some of the cute ways that Congress has gotten around that. But any of the revenue bills that pass have to come from the House of Representatives. But so the way this works, as you know, is that a bill has to pass either the House or the Senate first, and then has to pass the other chamber. And usually, at least in the past, we've gotten these stupid giant omnibus bills lately, but in the past, usually they would disagree about something, the House and the Senate. So then it would go to a conference committee that would write a new measure that would weave out the disagreements, and then that compromise measure would be the one that actually ended up becoming the final measure, and that would have to be repassed. You say you don't mind my rabbit holes, so I'm going to go down in a rabbit hole here. I can think of two occasions in United States history when the final measure that passes the House and the Senate was changed between the time that it was written and the time it actually got published. And there's huge fights in both cases about whether or not that was deliberate or whether that was an error, because something got included that wasn't supposed to be. And then there's a real question of what is the actual law. But that's incredibly rare. Usually it's that final bill that becomes a law that passes the both chambers of Congress. And then it has to go to the president for a signature. And if the president signs it, it becomes a law. Alternatively, the president can veto it, can say, not happening, we're not doing this. And in that case, the House and the Senate can override the president's veto by 2/3 of Congress to say, well, yeah, actually, we are going to do this. And that's actually, I was going to say it's uncommon, but it's not all that uncommon, actually. And then, the question you asked was about the idea that something could become a law without the president's signature. And yes, here you go. But in all such cases, if any bill shall not be returned by the president within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law in like manner as if he had signed it, unless Congress by their adjournment prevent its return, in which case it shall not be a law. Okay, so what's going on with that is that if the president doesn't sign it and the House and the Senate are in session, the Congress is in session, then in 10 days, it automatically becomes a law. But if Congress has adjourned, that is not in session, not simply home for the weekend, but not in session, then the president can refuse to sign it and it does not become a law. And that's what we know of as a pocket veto. So yes, Trump threatened the other day that, and I'll talk more about this, if he didn't get his way on some dramatic changes he wants to make to our voting system, that he would simply refuse to sign any laws. And that was supposed to be some great threat. What I think you're really seeing with that is Trump's terror that he is losing control of the world around him. And his threats are getting more and more and more extreme as that happens. I will point out that the Congress isn't doing very much anyway, so it's not like, this is a whole huge thing that's going to be a problem. Obviously, it would be a problem if the president simply said, I'm not going to play ball anymore. But in fact, if he decided to walk away, within 10 business days, not including Sundays, anything that the House and the Senate pass would become a law, unless it's after the end of the Congress, at which point it would he could pocket veto it. All right, I hope that was easy. It was clear. I hope that was clear. That one's an easy one. But so what's going on? The big picture here is that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, is losing control of himself and of the country. And with those things, he is doing an enormous amount of damage. So I'm not going to rehearse here the things he has done since he's been in his term, but the loss of the tariffs in front of the Supreme Court was a huge blow to him, not just because it embodied his version of the economy, but also because he was using the pressure of those tariffs to get other countries to give things to him and to give in to him. So taking those away and saying not only you can't have them, but also that you were wrong and you need to pay them back has been really debilitating for him. So, his administration has tried desperately to say, we can't pay these people back. We don't know how to pay these people back. We don't have the systems to pay these people back. And the judges have said, that is your problem. You did this, fix it. Trump is not accustomed to be in a, this is your problem, you did it, fix it kind of a position. So one of the things that the Supreme Court did when it decided Donald J. Trump v. U.S. in July of 2024 was that it suggested that so long as Trump was operating within his Article 2 powers, that is the section of the Constitution that lays out what the president is supposed to do, then he couldn't be prosecuted for committing crimes. And that there was this presumption that the things that the president was supposed to do, even if it was not Article 2 powers, but sort of presidential powers, that there was a presumption that he had immunity in those cases as well. Now, one of the things it's done since is it's emphasized that it considers foreign affairs part of the areas in which he has untrammeled authority. And I say that they say that because that's actually a really big debate in both in history and in law as who really has control over foreign affairs, because of course the Congress has the power to levy war, and the Senate has the power to approve of treaties. So it's not entirely clear that the president is supposed to be able to do whatever he wants. That's really a post-World War II phenomenon. I think especially after the construction of the National Security Agency, which kind of centers power in the president. But the Supreme Court has said that generally the courts are supposed to give him a lot of leeway in foreign affairs. And so he has tried to justify a lot of what he has done based in foreign affairs, but he has really started to use the power of the president as commander in chief. You hear him talk about that a lot, and his supporters talk about that a lot, to do whatever he wants with regard to foreign affairs. And what he is trying to do there is, one, to suggest that the United States is dominant over other countries because of our extraordinary military, but also to reorder the global order, which I've talked about here a lot. After World War II, the allies from that war put together a system that was designed to stop future world wars. And it was designed to stop those world wars by creating a sort of shared economic system, shared trade. And by the way, you've heard me talk a lot about freedom of the seas. Freedom of the seas is obviously very much at stake right now. And you can see all these countries suddenly panicking and real concerns about the global economy because of the idea that people will not continue to have freedom of the seas, that countries will be able to stop the ships outside or that are within their, that they can attack ships on the seas. But there's this idea that they would be able to create this web around the world through global trade, through global alliances like the World Health Organization and the United Nations and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and AUKUS and all the different ways in which we are connected. And also, by the way, universities and the sharing that we have, like the what's it called, the scholarship, the really high-powered scholarship, like the Marshall Fellowship or the Rhodes Scholarship or Rotary Club Fellowships, all those things where scholars went from one country to another and, exchanged students. Those are designed to create a smaller world so that we have friends in other countries and that we're not going to go to war with our friends. And the other pillar of that, of course, was the idea of spreading liberal democracy, the idea that people should have a right to have a say in their government, and that those things would create a world that would prevent a world war. Now, Trump has worked to tear down all three of those pillars since he took office. And the trade one because of the tariffs, and that he has been really threatening Europe, that the U.S. would not stand with Europe, and is really been going after a lot of our old alliances, and instead continually emphasizing a world that looks very much like the one that Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, wants, which is the idea of sort of a very few strong states. In his mind, Russia, which is not a strong state, but is becoming so, he sort of tries to portray that with the idea that he can grab a whole bunch of other territory, including in Ukraine and further on now. One with Europe, with Europe having to defer to Russia, one with the United States running the Western Hemisphere, and probably one around Xi Jinping in China. And the idea there is if you have a really strong state at the center of these areas, all the other states kind of have to suck up to it because otherwise they're going to get squished, right? So what you can see with Trump's attacks on Venezuela and the taking out of the president there, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife Celia Flores, but leaving in place the regime under who was then the vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, you can see this idea of sort of having a kind of, I won't call it a puppet state because we're not there yet, but at least I don't think, I'm not paying that close attention to internal Venezuelan politics, but the idea that the president of the United States has essentially said that this is a leader who's willing to work with him. And of course, Trump has taken over the oil of Venezuela. But you saw it also in interference of the U.S. in the Honduran election when the president pardoned the former president of Honduras right before an election so his party would get reelected. The attempt to prop up Javier Milei in Argentina, the attempt to protect Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil, the ways in which the United States is messing around in Latin America. And you're seeing it now increasingly with these attacks on these small boats probably out of Venezuela. I'm going to hedge my bets there because all we have is what the administration is saying they are. They've offered no proof ever. But also with this idea of the shield of the Americas that Trump is now talking about, and he had a meeting in Florida about earlier this week or late last week, or I guess it was over the weekend. I've totally lost track of what day it is. And the idea behind that, and there's also been an attempt on the part of the administration to put together a group of countries in Latin America that are going to be it's an anti-cartel council, I think they're calling it. And what they've said what the administration said to these countries is, you take care of the drug cartels in your countries or we will. And, they're trying to show this as like, we're going to cooperate with you. But no, basically the United States is saying, we're going to come bomb your countries if you don't do what we say. And that idea of Trump doing this and creating this world around the United States in the Western Hemisphere also is part of why he's talking about taking Greenland and taking over Canada, which he's back on today again, because it's this attempt of him to say, I'm sort of going to be king of this universe. And I always thought that the whole idea of his Board of Peace, which was designed to replace the United Nations, but put him at the center of everything. If he at the head of the Board of Peace is the one who gets to say and do everything. He gets final word on everything. He gets control of the money and so on. Was an attempt to sort of say, I'm going to be sort of the king of the universe over here. But part of that idea that he's going to be just, he's going to run the Western Hemisphere is that when he has done